Aloha, Namaste, Sitaram, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Dianne Ojar on Divine Soul Journey. And why Divine Soul Journey? Because we all connect to a higher source of frequency, whether we believe that or not. And we all have a soul, a spirit, a gut feeling, intuition. And we're all on that journey to go home to enlightenment. And we want to walk that journey with you and be here as a support. As always, as a disclaimer, this is not about religion. We respect everyone's faith and beliefs. And I want to thank you so much for always being here with us, for all the love and support. And we wish you nothing but the best. Today I'm really excited. I say it all the time, but I truly am. I just met this gentleman recently, and I'm so in awe with what he's done and what he's accomplished. It's absolutely incredible. His story, his passion, his drive is absolutely incredible. And for all you young people out there, or if you have kids, you want them to listen to Ken's story. This is a story that I couldn't get enough of when I heard it. And I can guarantee you this may not be the last time you will hear from Ken. Whether it be on this platform or any other platform with me, I can guarantee you that. The man has a heart, a goal, a humanitarian, a vision, and more. So please help me welcome Ken Caputo. Welcome, Ken, to Divine Soul Journey. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, you're very welcome, and my goodness, I don't know what to say after that. That was a wonderful introduction.
Well, there's nothing to say except we're going to tell you a story. So why don't you first tell us? Why don't you first tell us who you are and where you're from, and then we'll on with the show.
Sure. So so my name is Ken Caputo, and I've been a bunch of things in my life, but it's all kind of been geared around being a teacher primarily, and I've been a lifelong athlete and an entrepreneur, and a student as well, a lifelong learner. And I guess all I've really done is fused all those things together in as many ways as I could to be of service. And I really like to think of it as creating environments where their meaningful human connection can occur, and the right students and the right teachers can find each other, and everyone can just be their best selves and live their best lives and do their best work. And that's really kind of what I've been about for the last 3 decades or so. And the path has been a winding one, as all of our paths generally tend to be, but incredibly fulfilling and rewarding as well.
Beautiful, thank you. So why don't we start at the beginning? How this all came about.
That's a good place to start, right?
That's a really good place to start. And like I said before, if anyone has a young person who's looking for something, don't know, share this with them. Definitely so.
Yeah. Well, and it is an interesting story, because it kind of began when I finished, like regular schooling and went into college, and felt like I think a lot of people do, sort of out of place and not sure what exactly I was supposed to be doing. But I knew that it needed to be something that involved helping other people. And I didn't really know what that meant either. And the universe provides. I ended up studying martial arts. I started taking some martial arts classes. This is back in the early 90s. And at that time, there was this shift that was occurring from martial arts being kind of more of an adult thing. And I was, at that point, I was in my 20s, and, it was appealing to me as a philosophically, but also physically, a way to move and control my body, that kind of thing. And what had happened is I had come in early for a class, for my own class. And when I got in there were a bunch of kids who were practicing. And it was like my whole world just, you know how you have those moments where you're just, everything comes clear in an instant? It's just everything just that you've been thinking and feeling and trying to figure out is just put in front of you, and you have that moment where you recognize it's all these smiling faces and these kids just moving their body and just yelling and screaming. And I thought, I want to do this. This is what I want to do for a living. I knew nothing about running businesses. I really knew very little at that point about even martial arts. All I really knew how to do was teach. So I went and I talked to the person who ran the school about coming in and starting to help out. And they agreed, and I started assisting in classes. And a couple years later, there was a small school that was struggling, and they needed someone to go out and run it and see if they could turn it around. So I took that school over, and over the course of the next decade or so, I turned it into a real thriving community. And throughout all of that, there were kind of three things that kept running through my mind that were important. And one was to be a resource for the community. And I really think that that's what a business should be. You can create a business that serves as a cherished asset, and as much as it receives from the community, it gives back tenfold as best as it can. So that was one of the principal foundations. And then another one was to be an ally for families and someone who could be part of their support network as they were learning to be their best selves and doing their best to raise kids and facing all the challenges with parenting and all that kind of stuff. And then the third part was to be a modern-day educational facility. I more and more became fascinated with the diverse way that people learn. And one of the really neat things about the martial arts is it's multi-generational. My youngest student was 3. My oldest was in their 80s. And you would watch people grow up. They'd be with you year-round for a decade, even 2 decades. So you really get to see people through the different arcs of their lives. And you get this just diverse group of humans who all had their own unique way of learning. So I started really delving into that and kind of getting an understanding of the different way that people learn. And we started practicing and refining that when we would teach our martial arts classes. And because we were so community-oriented, we started taking the things we're developing and donating time and programming to all the local school systems and helping the teachers and the students be better teachers and better students. So this went on, I'm going to fast forward about 20 years, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. No, this is your time because you know what? We can talk about it now. We can talk about it later. But one of the things why you incorporate in your little story here, because your concept is a little bit really unique, which I really love. But I want to find out before we go there, maybe for a moment, how did people react? How did your parents and family react to all of this? You want to do martial arts. You didn't want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or be...
Oh, my goodness.
That's the story. That is the story we need to hear, because there's a lot of kids out there right now, even adults for that matter. They're driven because of what their parents want and that society. Because, again, we love our parents regardless, and this is what they were taught. But you say you want to do martial arts, or somebody want to be a dancer, or there's a young guy who wants to be a dancer, a painter, a singer. Are you crazy? So let's go back for a moment. Let's talk about that and see how, you never know who is in that position there and why we're speaking about this today.
Well, and and the interesting thing is, beyond my story, this is something that I've seen over and over again, especially working with 30 years worth of teenagers and reaching those choice points in their own life and figuring it out. And there was a lot of shock when I said that I was going to do this, and a lot of confusion for why. And in my parents' defense, especially back then, this was not something that anyone thought of as being something you could do professionally. Like, there weren't a lot of people making a living doing this back then. It was just kind of something. Most people were teaching martial arts out of their garage or their basement or something like that. So it was quite the leap in a lot of different directions. And one thing that I think really helped me was from when I was young, my mom had always said, as long as you're happy, I don't care what you do. You be a doctor, dig ditches, just if it makes you happy and you're fulfilled by it, I'll support it.
Bless your mom.
That was put to the
Bless
that was
your
my mom.
mom.
Yes. Yep. And that was put to the test when I made this decision. You know, she was very, very skeptical of it, but also knew that I was having a hard time finding my path, you know. So on that side, I had that kind of, you know, that fortunate, supportive yin energy. My dad was very protective, and he recognized my potential. However, that was filtered through what his paradigm of what success was. So, and for him, for his generation and where he came from, that was things like doctors, lawyers, you know, something that had that sense of security and establishment. And, you know, and I remember, you know, even after I had made the decision and taken the leap, you know, he would send me books on, you know, going to med school and stuff like that. Subtle hints to try to remind me that there are
He's a dad.
more traditional
He's a
ways
parent,
to live
right?
my life. Yeah, exactly. And it was, and I think this is something that's important for the kids that are listening. You know, it's not
And the
always that they're
parents.
trying to keep,
And the parents. Not only
and
the
the parents.
kids, and the
Yeah,
parents.
yeah, yep, yeah. And it's not always that the adult, the parent, is trying to keep the child from doing what they want to do. It's that they have experience. They've walked these paths. They have concerns. They're expressing some caution. You know, and sometimes that doesn't always come out in a way that's easy to process or hear, and you get a disconnect and you get tension. So, you know, so that was what I experienced, and in the end, you know, the cure for it was I was successful. You know, I did it, and I did it really, really well and to a high level. So, you know, so that one, it was obvious that I was happy and, you know, building a life and a profession and a career for myself. But, you know, for the parents, I think one of the challenging things is balancing giving your children space to test these things out and maybe even make, you know, what could potentially look like a disastrous mistake, because you don't know what's going to be on the other side of that, you know. But at the same time, you know, you're always balancing that against knowing what you know, helping your children shorten the learning curve towards their own level of success. So, and, you know, I definitely work with teams that, you know, got a little too caught up in following their dreams, and they forgot to put a little bit of practicality behind that and think through whether, you know, how realistic that was going to be and how long it takes, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And here's the one thing, you know, and, you know, we can go in any direction here. Definitely we're here with Ken Caputo, who I was just in awe when I met him. I mean, we talked for quite some time about so many things. We did. And believe me, it will not be the end of it. But particularly, okay, let's talk about the martial arts. The martial arts, please give us maybe some parents out there don't really truly understand the martial arts. There's the component of safety, protection, and so forth, but it goes beyond that. It's such a discipline. It's deeper than that. The control. Why don't you give us a brief explanation of exactly what martial arts is and what someone, whether it be a child or could be an adult, will receive from this? Or I know for many times, if someone has behavioral, you know, challenges, I would say it's a good form of discipline, not in a harsh way, but in a very subtle way in regards to for growth. But you can rephrase it, correct me out. Just trying to find the right words to say, because I know my oldest and my youngest did karate, and they're different forms and different levels, obviously. And but I told you this. Remember, my oldest daughter, she wanted to quit because, unfortunately, it was a community group session, and they will always add new people every time. So she wasn't going anywhere with this. And the sense he actually called me and begged me for her not to stop. But unfortunately, it's not me have to do it, right? And she was a teenager at the time. So tell us, what can people get out of this? What is martial arts particularly? And how did it help? You work with kids every day and adults, so you see this transition. You see the transformation. It's beyond what it is. It's very transformational on so many different levels. I'll stop there.
Yeah, it really can be. And the one word of caution, the metaphor my teacher gave to me years and years ago, he said, you have to remember that the martial arts is a tool, and the intention is what makes that tool what it is. And he was very kind of blunt, and he said, just think of a hammer. You can pick up a hammer and you can build a house with it, or you could crack a skull with it. The hammer is the hammer. It's the intention behind it that matters. So one of the things that the martial arts are like that. There's a lot of different approaches, and a lot of it's going to be kind of directed by the values of the leader of that school. So some schools are very combat oriented. I have a friend who works with prison guards in supermax prisons, and their training is very different from the training that I do working with 5 and 6 year olds. So
I would hope
the 5 and 6 year olds tend to act more like the
hope
inmates,
so. Definitely, I would hope so.
Exactly. So you do have to kind of have an idea of what it is that you're looking to gain from the martial arts. And the fascinating thing, though, is in the end, they'll all deliver on some fundamental levels. And I think one of the things that I've always found so powerful personally about it is creates this alignment between your mind, like just kind of your discernment, the way that you use your mind, your body. It's something that can grow and adapt as you age. So it's not something you go out of. You just change the way you use it and maintain health and longevity over time. And it's just, you cultivate spirit, you mindfulness, all of these things. So any style, regardless of the kind of the main intention of it, wherever it may fall, whether it's more in cultivating health and wellness, like a Tai Chi art, or if it's more sport-oriented, like mixed martial arts, MMA, in the end, that alignment, the potential for that alignment to occur is always there. And when you find that balance between the three treasures, we would call them, you tend to be in a good place in your life. So my particular focus was really on helping people use the martial arts as a vehicle to be their best selves. And, we wanted to focus sort of on 4 circles, and one of them was obviously personal protection, which was as much dealing with any kind of energy coming towards you. So whether it's an upset friend who's yelling at you because you're having a disagreement, and how to be skillful and appropriate and how you navigate that, to, getting bullied or getting attacked. So you have that kind of element of it that you're practicing in different ways, where you're learning to trust your skills. So, the way I would say it is, you want to think of it as, if you're a surfer, if you know how to surf, the waves are a lot less scary. And the better you get at surfing, the bigger the wave you look forward to, because you have the skill to navigate it.
Absolutely.
So, so, and that's...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, our bodies, you said something a moment ago, and again, it comes back to the intention. Our bodies are like weapons. You can have a pen, it's a weapon. It's what you do with it, the force. And martial arts is really about self-control and self-discipline, and how to control those emotions.
Yes.
And that's where it comes in regards to anyone who's having any type of behavioral challenges, it's a way of self-control. I would say this all the time, and we always say this, and we should probably stop saying it. We're not broken to be fixed. We just want to be understood. We want help. We want to know, because everybody's brains are wired differently. We don't know what's behind in closed doors, meaning that if we speak, people would know. But if we keep it inside ourselves, and this is where we also have to pay attention to our children and adults. We have to be real, because it's a real conversation we're having here as well, in terms of, how they can hurt themselves. The things that we're seeing out there, which can be hurtful, harmful. And here you have a place, a safe place, a tool that will help you control that and stop to make the decision what is yes or no, right or wrong, the yin and the yang of it. Is that correct in saying that? And we're going to talk about Bruce Lee, because if we don't have a conversation about Bruce Lee, then something's wrong. So, but in regards to, this is what you do. So if we start from young or teenagers, because everything is about a gang, everything is about, we want to always talk about the good side. And it's all nice and happy, but the world is not like that whatsoever, right? So when you have someone who's coming in with, let's say, bipolar, I don't like to label people, but it is what it is, or ADHD, where they're very hyper. Most people don't, because I know I live with that. I mean, in my family, and people don't understand. They think it's something else. This can help, correct?
Yeah, and it's very interesting. You've got something that requires you to engage your mind and your body and be mindful and connected all at the same time. And it was always interesting, especially attention deficit would be an interesting thing, watching them start to respond to practicing physical patterns of movement that they have to memorize. And sometimes at first that would be very, very difficult, especially if they're processing kind of in bursts or very spatially sequential things can be difficult. But what's cool about it is it's kind of like when you hit a baseball. If you miss it, there's the immediate feedback. And if you hit it, there's immediate feedback. So you have like this ability to kind of self-assess and make corrections in real time. So you start seeing improvements in focus that eventually kind of, from what I've seen anyway, they very often start to spill over into other elements of their lives, because they're learning that they do have the capacity to sequentially think,
Absolutely.
And that starts becoming a translatable skill.
These kids, adults as well, they have a seventh sense, an eighth sense. They're super smart. They just need to know how to focus. Because I know I live with one. So, and my sister and my daughter, and super smart, super smart, but they don't understand and realize how smart they are.
Well, it's and especially if they're in environments that don't play to their strengths. So, and honestly, that was me. I mean, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I knew I wouldn't have succeeded in a public educational system, because number one, there's not enough movement. I'm no good at standing still. It's just I can be still in meditation, but I do my best work when I'm able to move. And I also knew that the structure, if it was too firm of like a bureaucratic structure, too many rules that I didn't control, I would end up really, really struggling.
Yeah,
so
red tape, politics. Too much politics behind there, and say, yes, you and I are wired the same way. Don't tell us to do X, Y, and Z. We will do the opposite.
Yeah.
It's not how...
It's an entrepreneurial trait.
It's, what? It's beyond that. It's beyond that.
Like that too,
So tell me, now, of course, like I said, we can't have a conversation because, in anything in life, just like, I do hypnotherapy and so forth, and there's the the transformational side of it, but there's also the entertainment side of it, which most people believe is what it is, but it's not. It's not. It's all about, keeping the focus. And I know you probably, well, maybe in the older days, everybody wants to be a Bruce Lee. Now, Bruce Lee, I mean, he was one of the fastest as far as I understand and know. But it was also entertainment. But he had a different styling. And that's not, some people will come with that expectation. They want to be like that. But the discipline that comes behind it is incredible because he was very profound in his day. So is his son. But at the end of the day, it was more than just entertaining. He had a different style. And that's not typically what they teach. Because, again, it depends on the intention that you want it for, what you want to use it for. Maybe it's for self-defense. Then you'll probably have a different technique compared to, I mean, it's martial arts, but a slightly different curriculum for that, correct? Or maybe it's the same thing.
Oh yeah, there's so much, it is incredibly diverse. And I mean, there's every culture kind of took, the art and it modified it for that culture. And then you had people like Bruce Lee who are innovators. So, he took something like, I believe his root style originally was Wing Chun Kung Fu. And then he took the parts of that made sense to him, and then he added parts from other systems and from his own insight until he developed Jeet Kune Do, which is kind of more his own creation and fit his philosophy. And I think the fascinating thing about it, there's been a lot of visionary martial artists, throughout the centuries, and in the end, what they do is something that we talk about with all of our students. It's cultivate your own skill first, become someone who can model the things that you would choose to share with others. So before you communicate it, you need to cultivate it. So Bruce Lee being in film, he mesmerized generations of young people and not so young people because of his skill. He modeled that skill to such a high level. And honestly, I guarantee part of it was genetics. I watched film of him being able to play ping pong with nunchucks, and
yes,
the level of hand-eye coordination and timing, I think that's partially something you're just born with. Like, I think I could practice my whole life and never be able to do that.
His son was also very gifted as well.
Yeah. So there's always that part of it. But at the same time, it's very inspiring because he didn't just do that one day. That was thousands of hours of intentional practice and commitment and dedication to a skill that he chose to master. And and I think that's when you talk about the discipline of it, I think that's one of the cool things about it is and it's not just martial arts. I mean, you can find this. This is why my own journey evolved, because you can find this in many, many disciplines. It's just finding the one that works for you and then putting in the time and the effort, to become skillful at it.
I remember, oh my gosh, I'm dating myself. I remember he was probably one of the first people I ever saw fly backwards in the movies, because in those days it was fascinating for us, being very young. And my goodness, of course, it was, movie effects, but he was flying, right? He was flying pretty much, or jumping backwards.
Yep.
And so good for that. So
Yep.
Tell us a bit about your project and program now. What you have different styles. It's always a very particular style that you focus on for the younger people and different for the older. Because like I said, there's so many different techniques and forms. And, tell us about the organization that you have, because it's absolutely incredible what you have built. Really and truly, it's a fascinating story. I'll stay quiet here.
So yes. So the martial arts was obviously, that was my kind of my root, and everything else sort of flowed out of there. But yeah, over time, we more and more started recognizing that what we had developed was a methodology of teaching that, would allow someone we would teach someone how to teach, it actually didn't matter what they wanted to teach. They could teach anything. So it didn't matter if it was martial arts or chess or painting. So, and that was a direct result of these, hundreds and hundreds of hours that we had invested working in the school systems and doing enrichment programs and different things with the kids, working with the teachers. So what that led to in 2015, in our little town, we had a mall that had a big open commercial space sitting empty, and they had come to us to kind of put something in there that would be of benefit to the community. So we created a larger facility that was based, its core was around the things that we had developed through the martial arts school, but then we just expanded it. So this is a 16,000 square foot facility that was built around 5 key principles or practices. And those were to move, think, connect, fuel, and empower, with the idea being that, every day it's good to move your body somehow, some way, be physical, exercise. We say exercise, but that's like limiting. It's just any movement. It can be doing dishes. Move your body, right?
Yes.
And then think was about the, brain stimulation, neuroplasticity, and the brain's ability to adapt and grow does not ever go away. Throughout your whole life, you can continue to strengthen and evolve your brain. Connect was about the way that you interact with yourself and with others, the relationships in your life. Fuel was nourishment, whether that be, food, nutrition, or sleep. Anything that nourishes mind, the body, or soul. And then empowerment is about your own belief in yourself and being present. And, actually the tagline of our center that we built, called Quester's Way, was best day ever. And that was as much a reminder to us as to our guests that all you have is what's right in front of you, just the present moment. So let's make a commitment to make this our best day ever, our best moment ever, that kind of thing. So, so we built this big center, and there were 5 classrooms, and 2 of them were movement-based, and we taught everything from breakdancing to martial arts to tumbling to Zumba. We had 2 project-based classes, a left brain side and a right brain side. One side did everything from messy science and building projects and puzzle solving.
Love that.
The other side was
that.
painting and poetry and creative writing. And then we had the adventure room where we had all kinds of game-based play. So we'd teach everything from chess to host Dungeons and Dragons role play. I mean, it was, whatever people wanted. And in the center, we had a healthy eating cafe where people could come and share a meal that was nutritionally balanced and with no garbage. So, like, you couldn't buy a soda there. We'd make the salad dressings from scratch so that they weren't overly spiked with sugar or anything. And then we had a giant indoor park that was staffed with educators and filled with smiling, laughing kids running around, creating games and free playing, and then coming up with their own ideas. And we had adults who could help them navigate, the social experimentation that would go on, when they'd have their arguments or disagreements, and work through that. So that was Quester's Way. So that was kind of really to us, it was just a big martial arts school that was capable of sharing so much beyond just martial arts. We took the principles of everything we developed over 20 years and expanded it so that people who didn't want to punch and kick could have a place where they could experience the same level of value in a way of their choosing, so we could truly honor their journey. So that's what we created.
I believe it's more than that. It's a safe space where parents can come with their kids and interact, spend some time, do things themselves. Not to mention the mall would benefit from it. That's a whole nother story to drop the kids off. But at the same time, there's a strategy for everything, Ken. You know this. We're here with Ken Caputo, amazing humanitarian. And it has to come from your passion and your vision. But what you've also done is you've actually taken that unconsciously and pass it on to the parents and the kids, because sometimes, we rub off on people and they see what you do and you have the support. They give you the support and the love, and you open that. You said to me that you knew nothing about opening a restaurant, but here you are. You open a restaurant within the facility, and it continues
Yeah.
to go and it continues to go. So it's not a matter of whether, we always talk about the why, the what, and the how. Forget about the how. Forget about the what for the moment. But it's the why, the story behind why you're doing this. What is the job for? Who are you doing it for? That's what it is about. The hero that you're
Yeah.
doing it for. The what would be just figure out what is priority and get it done like you did. Of course, you didn't have money. Of course, you had to get funding. Of course, you had to get this. But if you didn't have the why and the passion and the gut, the dream, the mission, everything that you want to put in there, none of this would be possible. And then how? That's just going to fall into place. It just naturally comes. It naturally does come. And that's what you did. And I just love the idea. You also shared with me that you had some books that you created in regards to the curriculums that they can share with the I don't like to say kids, they all, but with the young people
yeah.
there, because they're so smart, they can't help that they're so young, but they're smart and their intelligence is growing.
Yep.
For every child that's born, their intelligence is much higher than when we were born. I'll tell you that much.
That is very, very true.
They know what they want.
And
They know what they want. We're still discovering what it is we want, but they know what they want.
But and it's funny because you're right. Even with the books, all of this, it wasn't really, none of it was anyone's idea. It was just listening to people. I mean, years of listening to parents, and it's funny. I mean, I watched all of these parents who were running their kids to karate and then running across town to get to gymnastics and then trying to get home for dinner. And I'm like, man, it's so stressful trying to be in all these places at once. Wouldn't it be nice if it was all under one roof? And, the classes that we would end up teaching, the programs that we did, the books we designed, it was all because people wanted it and saw value in it. And our job was just to see if we could figure out a way to create the space where it could happen. And, and even like, you're probably talking about from the books, the Quest book that
Yes.
we designed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really just a big part of martial arts is being proactively respectful. So, and this is even before you hear talk of like kindness initiatives and paying it forward. It was just, looking for opportunities to be kind, caring, and respectful towards fellow human beings, even if they don't necessarily deserve it. It's just, you come from a place of strength and desire to be your best in service to, things outside of yourself. So we would say, drop a pebble and make some ripples. You hold a contribution in your hand, and all you need to do is let it go. And when it strikes the surface of the water, you just trust that the ripples will spread. So we've been playing with this idea, and I think that what originally started it for me was one of the kids had this journal called Wreck This Journal. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before.
No, sorry.
But it was hysterical. It was kind of like a journal for kids, and it was things where it's like take these 2 pages and mash them together with a piece of chewed up chewing gum and rip this page. And the kids loved it because they could be messy and they could be creative, and they didn't have to stay inside the lines. They got to make it their own. And the things in the journal that it was encouraging to do really just inspired bravery and creativity, and I was fascinated by that. So we started playing with the idea of creating basically almost like a workbook, but it was really, it was filled with missions that would be fun for kids to explore that would encourage kindness. And, like one of them was just giving away smiles. And it was literally, they would just walk around and look for someone to smile at and notice what they did. Like, did they smile back? How many teeth did they have? That kind of thing.
Yeah, they don't teach us
Just
in school,
making it,
Ken.
you know?
They don't teach us in school. Trust me. They do not teach
Yeah,
these things in school. But now probably more in kindergarten
no,
with my kids. But again, it's amazing what you have created there.
yeah, and we just self-published this little book, and they would get to do all of these little missions. They'd do things like write a thank you note, and they'd write a letter to their grandmother, who would be thrilled, or hold a door for someone, or ask someone to tell them something they didn't know about them, and it starts a
Mm-hmm.
conversation. So they do all these missions, and when they complete it, they'd show us the book, and we do a little ceremony where we give them a pebble, that they'd use. It
Mm,
become like kind of symbolic. They could put it in their pocket, and
beautiful.
it was just a reminder of their commitment that they were making
Mm-hmm.
ripples in the world through their actions. They're a pebble dropper. So yeah, and it was really just, the whole idea came because it was something we were all talking about, the value of that. And what was cool to me was there was many adults that did it as there were kids. The adults would do it with their kids, or we had adult students that would just ask they'd buy one and do it. And they do it at work and maybe modify some of
Yeah.
the practices to fit their lives. But I mean, just kindness going out in the world. That can't be a bad thing, right?
No, absolutely not. What probably maybe you already do it. They should actually maybe paint the pebble or write on the pebble a message or a word or something that's symbolic to them to what we call anchor it, because it's symbolic to them, whatever they feel. So maybe to paint it or do something or color it, or I don't know how big this pebble is, but pebble is small, but they can still do it. They can be
Yeah,
different
they were
color, the
like palm
rainbows.
sized.
Hmm. So they're pretty
But
big.
oh goodness,
They're pretty
you
big.
you just brought a memory back of a story.
Go ahead.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, and it's just kind of, I guess this speaks to, for anyone listening, you can never underestimate the value of a physical space that's safe for people to gather. And this goes back to, I believe, yeah, it was 2018. We had a family and a little boy who he had trained in martial arts with us. He was really involved with Quester's Way. He loved the park. We actually called the park Pebble Park because of the drop the pebble thing. So he was in there all the time, and there was something wrong with his heart, and in 24 hours he went from fine to passing away at 8 years old. And it was a horrible, just devastating thing for the entire community, that just this little boy that we all knew, just one minute he was there and the next minute he was gone. And and obviously he was known by all the children and all the families. We were in Connecticut, and his family, the core of his family were in New Jersey. So we all went. He passed on a Friday, and we went down that Sunday for the funeral. All of the children who were left behind on their own all asked. We started getting phone calls on Saturday. They all wanted to come to the park to remember Seth. So we ended up setting up the classrooms. One of them had writing materials so they could write cards to him as they were kind of remembering him and processing their grief. And another room had pebbles that they could paint and decorate and either take with them or leave, to just kind of remember this boy's life. And it was just it was so surreal that we didn't offer. People just came. It was just the place that they came was to the center, and the kids wanted to be there, and the parents felt that it was the right thing to do. So we just kind of scrambled to make sure that we were there to support them, and that we had things there that would help them as they process it. But it just speaks to, the necessity for that, the importance of having those places and communities where people can go.
Now you're making me emotional, Ken. That is beautiful. It just goes to show,
Yeah,
it really goes to show what, you were put on here for a reason. And it takes a while to really figure out what that is. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time and time. And you've been
yeah,
doing this for like 3 decades, generation. Oh, beyond generations in the first place, but over 3 decades you've been doing this. And you still continue to learn, and you still continue to look and seek for the answers and the way. Please tell them the book that you spoke about is available to purchase. You don't have to be, you can also contact Ken to find out more, but it is available. So if you tell them, please tell them the name of the book again. There's 2 books, or might be 3. I don't know. He just told me about 2. But
oh,
what's the
yeah.
name?
The main one that's published is it's right on. If you go on Amazon and you just type in Quest Book, and if it doesn't, I think it just shows up, and it's the author is me, so the author is Ken Caputo, and yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's been I mean, I did it like a decade ago, and like I was telling you, you yelled at me a little bit. Not really yelled at me, but
I
I
yelled
haven't
at
ever
you?
really promoted it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ken. We have to talk about that. That is not going to happen. That's going to change. And you know what? There's 2 of them. And in saying that, for anyone who's listening here who has a non for profit or an organization, whether it be for profit, non for profit, whatever the case may be, but you're working with kids or you're working with adults or whoever you're working with, you need to get a copy of this. If you want to contact Ken, go to Amazon. I know it might be a little bit more costly. He'll tell you how to probably get it in bulk. But I'm saying it's a tool. And you also have a teaching curriculum that goes with it. Well, I mean, they don't know that part of it, but you had to design a 30-minute, you told me, like a teaching session to go with it, a study session.
Yeah, it's a separate thing, but it's so basically we designed several programs, and again, this were things that the teachers would ask for, and one of them that we designed, it's a book. The book isn't for sale. It's actually it's a tool that we would have teachers who really wanted to share things about the Chinese New Year. Like, kids are always fascinated by the animals of the Chinese zodiac.
I can't wait to get mine. I can't wait to get mine.
Yeah. Because you're a rabbit, right?
I'm a rabbit.
You're the rabbit?
I am a rabbit, but I just can't. No. Besides the book being that, there's so much to learn from the book itself, especially for what I do. Helping people understand who they are. There's so much more behind these books, but definitely, yes, I'm a rabbit. I'm very proud of it, but I found out.
Yeah, it's I'm actually Year of the Monkey.
Yeah, okay. I know a monkey as well.
The kids love finding out what animal sign they were born under, and and then learning a little bit about some of the characteristics of that. But yeah, I mean, the teachers had been asking us if we could design like a program where we would come into the classrooms and share some tools with the kids. So that's what we did. We designed a book. We had one of our students illustrate it. She did a beautiful job. And we just read the story of the race. The legend is that there was a race between the animals, and the place they came in determined their order in the zodiac.
Yeah.
And because our style has its root in Shaolin Kung Fu, we do animal systems like tiger, snake, and crane, kind of like Kung Fu Panda, which everybody knows that. So we would stop at certain animals like the tiger, and we would give them a practice that they could do just while sitting at their desk, so that when they're feeling their focus slip or they're feeling a little dip in energy, the teacher had a cool metaphorical type of qigong exercise that the kids could do, and that the teacher could use as a tool to help refocus and re-energize the kids.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. So the book was really so that whoever our instructor was, because we designed all of our things so that it was never about any one person. So none of this was about me or anyone else.
Absolutely.
So it needed to be something that we could teach many people to do it, especially since over time we would see 50, 60, 70 classrooms in a 3-week span. So we couldn't
Maybe
do that
that's
with just
why I
one of us.
yelled at you. Maybe, yeah, maybe that's why I yelled at
Yeah.
you because, and again, you can get this and you can create and design, however you choose to use it. Definitely. So, and the funny thing is, I only found out about that race in January this year when I was at my ancestral meet my ancestor training and the story, and that's the first time I heard about the story to tell you the truth, and I was like really
Oh,
listening
that's
to my
funny.
master. Yeah. hmm yeah, that was the first time I heard
Yeah.
about it. But it's an incredible
Yeah.
story, a simple one, incredible. The different legends, and then you go online and you Google it and you see all these different versions of different things. But Ken, I want to say, you are truly one of a kind for what you have accomplished. And it's amazing what you've done. And here's a problem we have with people like Ken, myself, other people, because everyone, we have things we come up with, we have ideas, but we don't know how to share because to us it's like, we live with this every day. But there's so many people who need to hear about this. And we're speaking with
Yeah.
Ken Caputo. And Ken, yes, I will yell at you again for the next time we have a conversation, maybe after this conversation, because we really need to get it out there. It's incredible, and I need to spread this. The facility, it would be really cool. I wish you could have it all over the world, to tell you the truth, and really make a difference. It's not about the money. And yes, he needs support, and yes, he needs everybody's support. Encourage him to bring it out to your where you live. So tell us, with a moment or two that we have left here, who's your biggest inspiration, or what inspires you, or how, what? Just tell us anything. Tell us something we don't know about
Uh,
you. Anything quickly.
there's there's been so many, and it's
Oh, I
I
know. I know what I want to know.
oh, go ahead.
Just quickly. One of the success stories of one of your students, because you've been around for 30 plus years, so I'm sure you have.
Oh my goodness, so many. So, just so many,
Just
so
briefly, yeah.
many, and
hmm
in all the different ways. I think one of my favorite is, I mean, I have actually, there's two. So one is my business partner who dropped out of high school to teach karate professionally when she was younger with her parents' support. I told her she's not going to teach with me until if she didn't have like at least a high school equivalency. So she went, got her GED, realized that if she really wanted to make a difference, she needed further education, worked full-time at the dojo, and got a 4-year university degree in 3 years after dropping out of high school, and is now
Beautiful.
an amazing human, just so accomplished entrepreneurially and all of the other kind of stuff, just incredible. So so that was a quick one. But the other one happened not that long ago. I had a mom of a student who I had trained from when he was 4 years old until he left at 18 to go be an adult and go off in his life. And his mom called me up about a year ago and said that her son wanted her to give something to me. He lives down in Florida now. He's nowhere near me, and I hadn't heard from his family in quite some years. So I met her, and she gave me a little box and a letter, and she said, just take it home, get comfortable, look at what's in the box, and then read the letter. So I get home, I open the box, and it's got a coin in it. And it's what they call a challenge coin, which is what you get when you're in the military. And this was a coin for someone who served in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington Cemetery. There's only been about 600 or so people that have qualified. It's one of the most rigorous and difficult things that you can accomplish in the military. It's an incredibly high level to achieve. So this student of mine, he was one of those soldiers. He's one of those guardians of the tomb, and he just wrote this letter saying that through all of those challenges and the things that he had done and learned about leadership, and he became an NCO and leaded these troops. He, in large part, felt that it was due to the things that he'd learned at the dojo through all those years, and as in gratitude for that, he wanted me to have his challenge coin, which I cried.
You have me crying right now, for God's sake. And that don't typically happen, Mr. Ken.
And the best part is, this is a boy who he wanted to start. His dad wanted him to train with me when he was 4, and I said no. I said, he's not ready. Bring him back in a year, because he was so wild and so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
He just wasn't. He was too young. He needed a little bit more time to mature. So he brought him back in a year. He ended up at, getting his black belt and teaching, and just turned into this amazing young man, and had a difficult life, had multiple challenges in his life,
mm-hmm.
and then went on to just be this incredible human. And I'm in touch with him to this day, and it was just so inspiring. I tell him, those kids inspire me every day, the adults that they become. They're good humans.
So thank you for that, and please do, next time you speak to him, tell him that, yes, he made me cry on radio. I mean, so there's
I'll do that. He'll get a chuckle out of that.
I can't believe that. Oh my gosh, Ken. No, you bring out things in me. I just love you. We only met 2 days ago, yesterday. I can't remember now. But such an incredible person. I want to say thank you so much, and I hope this is not going to be the end. Come back and share some stories, or maybe have some of your, share it where we can hear some of your family stories. They can feel free to tell them if they have a story they would like to share. I would love to have them here as well. You don't know what how this can help anyone. Definitely so. So I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking this time, for what you do. I want to see this global. I want to see what you're doing just soar. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That's my commitment now. It was 30 years
Oh, that's
of
my
practice
commitment.
in my little town. So now I'm like letting loose. It's just, we're going to do everything we can to share what we're doing and get it out into the world. That's the focus now.
I hope and I pray and I wish that whatever resources need to come, and I know what, I have another gift for you, not off air. That's not take about another half an hour.
Okay.
To give you to really plan that in there, and I want to say thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story. It's an incredible story, and your staff, your team. I know nobody probably works for you directly. They all work together with you, and even the parents and the students and the all the incredible people that you have.
We're all just a big community. It's like the only time I've ever yelled at anyone is when they make the mistake of calling me the boss. No one's allowed to.
I know. But I also want
we're all
to
just
thank,
working together.
Yeah,
couldn't do it without them.
I also want to thank Hans for introducing us. I have to tell him that it's incredible. It's an incredible human being as well. And I want to thank him for putting that.
Wonderful.
He's wonderful. So on that note, I want to say officially thank you so much. And I thank everyone for coming out and listening. I hope this will inspire someone out there.
I hope so too. Yeah.
I know it will. I know it did for me. I know it did for me. And definitely this is not the end for us. I can tell you that one. So on that note, I want to say aloha, namaste, sitaram, assalamu alaikum, and shalom to each and every one of you. And I want to, wish you a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I don't know what in the world Ken just did to me. However, I just feel I can say. But on a serious note, be the person you can be. Never give up on your dream. If not, listen to this again and listen to Ken's story. Reach out to him. Find out more how you could support and how you too could bring a smile to someone's life. and you never know how you're going to inspire them each and every day. Thank you. We love you all. And as always, in love, peace, and harmony, thank you. Have a great day.